I just passed a sign that's like, oh, 50 and 60 single detached homes for under $1 million, as if like that's something great.
If there's any crisis that's affecting young people more than anything, it's probably the housing crisis. I mean, there's the job market as well, there's inflation, but when it comes to me being in Canada, this is something that has been affecting me and a lot of my friends and family. So this is a video that I wanted to do for a while now. I haven't talked too much about housing crisis in Canada. I think I've only done 1 or 2 videos on the channel about it, but this one is it's a good one because we're talking about a lot of the issues that I felt were the most paramount for me growing up in Canada.
You know what's really fucking sad and annoying is that you drive through the country and they're putting up all these new subdivisions, except they're not putting up affordable housing. They're putting up these tiny shoebox ugly ass fucking townhouses where you don't have a backyard. You don't even have like a front yard for that.
A lot of the houses that they are building that she's talking about are like newer townhomes that have barely any space at all, making it very difficult to raise a family. And if you even ask if it's a starter home, they'll tell you it's not really a starter home. A lot of builders don't even really build starter homes anymore because there's just not enough money in it.
And they want 700 plus. I just passed a sign that's like, oh, 50 and 60 single detached homes for under $1 million, as if like that's something great. Like it's so affordable. Under $1 million. $1 million? Are you fucked? What the fuck is this world come to? The fact that we have to pay even close to $1 million for an ugly fucking townhouse where you have absolutely no privacy. They all look the fucking same. I don't want to be climbing 3 flights of stairs to get to my bedroom. Like, that's fucked. What we need is small, war-sized homes with decent yards that aren't so close to your neighbor that you could spit in their fucking bathroom window, okay? That's what we need. Like, this whole, like, new subdivision thing, this is what pisses me off with developers. There's no fucking character in these homes. They all are made of, like, the shittiest fucking product that they can find because they want to make money. And there's absolutely no fucking way that I'm paying $1 million for a shit like that, for it to just look like beige like every other fucking house on that block with no backyard. The amount of houses that I've looked at for like renting back in the day, like now I live in a basement apartment because I'm not gonna fucking do it. Like, I'm not renting a shit house for $2,500 with no fucking yard and have somebody else live in the basement and you get 1 parking spot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's so stupid. We need small houses that are 500,000 to 600,000 max, not this shitty fucking townhouses for 700K plus.
And cheaper materials is definitely being used more often in these newer builds. That's why a lot of the older houses that have great bones of the house, you know, make them more desirable for people with money who are able to afford these new builds, especially the new condos are just made like absolute garbage.
So we have been in the fuck around stage in terms of housing in Canada for decades. And now we're in the find out stage. So I don't love the National Post, but I read an article in it yesterday. It popped up on my feed that explaining that like birth rates in Canada have basically just fallen off a cliff. And like the chart that they use, I'm sorry I can't green screen it. My internet connection is just not good enough anymore for me to do the fancy things that I used to be able to do. But if just Google it. But the chart that they showed was like super startling. Because there was basically like 2 spikes, and then in 2021 it's like birth rates just straight down.
And a lot of that is because people were literally locked in place. People who couldn't go out and meet each other, so of course birth rates are going to go down in that situation. But a lot of it also has to do with the fact that as the quality of life goes up, birth rates decline. But maybe that means that birth rates will go up in Canada soon because quality of life is definitely declining. So maybe that theory will work out. I don't know. We'll see. We'll discuss it more actually in the future in a later video.
Which was more startling than even I had thought. And I am someone who, like, I knew the birth rates were declining because I can see it. People in my friend group who really, really, really do want to have kids oftentimes have just accepted that they will never have them. The people who do manage to have kids, they're like one and done. Every single one of them. The number of like only child households has just exploded because people can't afford them. So the National Post like pointed to housing affordability as being like the main driver of this, right? unsurprising. If you're a young person in Canada and you've seen, both mortgage and rent prices lately, you probably know.
Yeah, because people cannot afford kids anymore because of the cost of housing, the cost of life, and inflation. There's so many things eating away at that paycheck, including taxes. But that's not what we're talking about in today's video. We're talking about the unaffordability in housing.
Canada has become such an expensive place to live, and there are so many people that are now priced out of the market. It's increasingly challenging for people to live near where they work. It's increasingly challenging for people to pay for their groceries on a daily basis. And whether or not we're in a technical recession, it's kind of besides the point. If you anecdotally go around and talk to people, Canada has become so expensive for them to live that many are looking elsewhere. They're looking at different provinces, and in some cases different countries, or maybe they're reconsidering whether they should be coming to this country because expenses are so high.
Yeah.
And that is a serious problem. It's political, but it's really economic because it's going to make Canada a less competitive place in the world.
And related to that, here's an article from Daily Canada News, Housing Crisis in Canada, examining rising costs and government responses that could actually have led to the prices going up even more. Housing affordability has become a pressing issue in Canada, with the dream of owning a home slipping further out of reach for many. Rising property costs, limited housing supply, and population growth have created a perfect storm, leaving both prospective homeowners and renters struggling to secure affordable housing. In response, the Canadian government has introduced various measures aimed at addressing the housing crisis, but challenges remain. And do you guys think that any of these responses have reduced the cost of housing or helped in any way? Let me know down below in the comment section. Why are prices so high? Low interest rates, historically low interest rates have made borrowing cheaper, leading to increased demand for homes and higher prices, because these are assets. People know that assets tend to be a good storage of value. Population growth. Canada's population is steadily growing, driven by immigration and natural growth. Birth rates are declining a lot, so I don't think it's the natural growth that's really leading to a lot of these prices going up, if this is what they're saying. Regardless, let's keep reading. This has increased the demand for housing, particularly in urban areas. Limited housing supply. There is a significant mismatch between the demand for housing and the supply available, contributing to price hikes. Investment in real estate. Many people see real estate as a safe investment, which has led to speculative buying and further driving up prices. And that one is something I think for sure has been happening and has led to a lot of rising prices in housing.
I'm going to be the one to say it because I don't care, but the housing crisis in Canada is disgusting, especially in Toronto. I can't believe that we live in a first world country and there's people here waiting to get access to a shelter, not housing. When I say shelter, I'm not talking about housing or housing units. I'm talking about a shelter, like a homeless shelter, okay? If you go on Google right now and you type in free things to do in Toronto, they're going to say, oh, why don't you walk Allen Gardens? If you walk Allen Gardens, there are communities there of people who are homeless living in tents. I'm not blaming the homeless community. I actually admire them for their resilience and for the fact that they built community. I see them cooking food like on fire. They have their flags represented outside their tents. They're listening to music. They have their dogs, all of that. But how do you have a country like Canada, so lacking so much resources, where people are building communities and parks?
Well, one of them is mental health crisis, but another one is the fact that housing prices are so expensive. I'm not saying a lot of these people who are homeless are there specifically because of housing prices, but that could be one of the factors, especially rent prices, right? Not everyone is going to be buying a home in their lifetime, right? But rent is something people need as well. If you can't afford to qualify for a mortgage or you don't have the income for that, rent becomes very important, and a lot of people have been priced out of the rental market, and hence building communities in parks.
I need to rant about the housing market right now because honestly, I'm pissed. There was this house that was listed at $329. Me and my fiance went and looked at it, and I was so excited. $329? Where? When we got there, the real estate agent had said that they were going to be hoping for $400, which again, I was like, okay, that's fine. That's to be expected right now. Then tell me why my real estate agent was like, they're actually hoping for $500,000. So that's what, $170,000 over asking? At this point, I was getting pissed because I'm like, this house isn't even worth $329,000. Not even close to being worth that. So I did some investigation. It was actually listed back in August for $399, and then they lowered it in September to $329 because they wanted a bidding war. I had asked if there was any offers being put in yet, and they said yes, but they were all declined. Which then I started laughing. I said, oh, let me guess, they were actually offering what it was listed at, and they declined because it was too low, even though that's what it's listed at. He said he could not comment. So at this point, I'm getting even more mad because I find that it's a real estate agent that's actually flipping it, and that's why they want a bidding war. I then find the original listing back from January this year that was listed at $289, and they're trying to sell it for $500,000. He goes, well, they'll take $475 for you guys. No. It has been on the market since August.
Well, I'm glad that this house hasn't sold yet, because that is just ridiculously shady practices.
We are now almost done October, and it still has not sold. They took it off October 1st and put it back up for $465 because I'm assuming that they had too many people that were actually offering what it was listed at. How is that legal? How are you able to have something on the market and as soon as someone actually offers what you're listing it at, you say, oh, never mind, I actually want more?
Yeah, the whole bidding war situation was ridiculous here in Canada during the pandemic. A lot of people were using those type of tactics where they knew there's a massive surge in housing demand, so they would put the price at something that looks really affordable to a lot of people, and then they just try to spark on a bidding war because there's a lot of people who have cash to buy homes and they will actually bid up the price of those houses. And a lot of those houses were actually selling during the pandemic, but now those tactics aren't working quite as much. And here's something terrifying. The threat of a tariff war is already driving up housing prices. Many high-rise buildings need beams. In fact, they need a lot, also known as a wide flange beam. The I-shaped component is used in multi-unit buildings, including residential and commercial ones. According to Keenan Loomis, president and CEO of the Canadian Institute of Steel Construction, a 20-story building would take thousands of tons of I-beams. And remember, steel tariffs are on the way here in Canada, so this is directly related to that. It's a crucial part of a builder's inventory. Nothing can be done without those, Loomis said. It turns out Canadian builders buy most of these crucial parts from steel companies based in the United States. Oh well, guess you're just gonna have to maybe build a community in the park then if you can't rent in these commercial buildings that are gonna be needing these beams. We are going to be headed into a massive crisis in 2025. We're already in a housing crisis, but it could get even worse this year. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did learn something, let me know down below in the comment section, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.